Gilgeous-Alexander back out home. He fakes. Sidestep. The big man can knock down the three. Not, they say, a two-pointer. Falls on the line. Look to run. Williams. Back speed, and Halter throws it down.
SGA out front. He's double. Sizing up Matherin now. Top of the key. 10 to shoot. Slices left. Steps back. Fires. The angle, that 17-foot jumper. Nothing but net. A Shea special. A mid-range master flashes. He's got 8. Thunder up 15 again. 44-29. 6 minutes left till halftime.
And the guys just really improved in a lot of like subtle areas, you know, from game 1 to game 2, which is what you have to do in a playoff series to stay ahead of the series.
Alexander, 15 points in that first half. Splits the defense. Gets inside. Wide open. Corner three. That's good.
Boy, his handle is elite.
Falling away. Jump shot is good. He's got 27 and still 2 to play here in the third. Wide open. Wiggins. Once again, Wiggins' 5th three-pointer. Going on for Indiana. Gilgeous-Alexander gets inside, draws a foul, banks it home. NBA Finals are tied at 1 game apiece.
You got to focus on the little things, recovery, getting ready for the game plan, and ultimately, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but getting better for the next game and the next opportunity.
Shea, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Gainbridge Fieldhouse is quiet now, but it's going to be rocking on Wednesday evening as the NBA Finals shifts to Indy for Game 3. Fair to say Tyrese Halliburton and company haven't played their best basketball yet in this series, yet they're still tied at 1 with the MVP and the Thunder, who dominated Game 2 in pretty much every category. Welcome to Finals Media Availability, presented by YouTube TV to Bill Krim alongside Greg Anthony as we look ahead to Game 3 of the NBA Finals. And it's intriguing, right? Because the Pacers throughout these playoffs have gotten better as the series has gone along. However, when it comes to Game 3s, they haven't won a Game 3 in these playoffs yet. What are you expecting?
It's going to be interesting to see how they approach it, because in Game 2, it just didn't seem like their energy and the sense of urgency was there. They got overwhelmed by the Thunder. And so you would expect, though, with Rick Carlisle having a few extra days to kind of prepare and get this group back in rhythm, I would like to think we're going to see the Pacers playing more their style. I thought that the Thunder didn't allow them to play as fast or to play as physical, and that's why they were able to control the game. They took out the 2 best players for Indiana. Siakam and Halliburton both struggled, and it's just really hard to win on the road when your 2 best players aren't performing at a high level.
And despite the loss there for the Pacers, this doesn't feel like a series that's going 5. It feels like it could be a longer series with both teams making those adjustments.
Yeah, you think, I feel that's the case, but the reality is each game takes on a life of its own, and so you just don't know. I do want to see how they're going to respond, though, because I feel like there's more pressure on them, believe it or not, even though they got the split in the first 2 games, because in both games, the Thunder, for the most part, were able to dictate how the game was going to be played. They were able to force a ton of turnovers. They've had no answer for SGA. And so you do have those concerns if you're the Pacers. But then I'd still like their style. I do think the way they like to play, there's an opportunity for them to have success against the Thunder and that defense, which has proven to be the best in our league this season.
Sean Powell is covering the series. He's in Indiana, and he joins us now. Sean, I would have to think that the Pacers, again, feeling pretty good about being tied at 1, considering how they played over the first 2 games. Now they're at home. What is the vibe around the city right now? Could it be a major advantage in Games 3 and 4?
Well, I mean, it's electric. I mean, this is one of the better places to play in the NBA. Great arena. Indiana Pacers are a true Hoosier story. Obviously, no one expected them to really be here. But you mentioned that stat. They're winless in Game 3 in the playoffs. They almost have to approach this Game 3 like a Game 7. I mean, this is a very good Oklahoma City team. You don't want Oklahoma City to come in here, win 2 straight games, and have a chance to close out the series back in Oklahoma City. And I think it all starts with Tyrese Halliburton. He's obviously their best player. He was more, deferential in the 2 first halves of the first 2 games. He only scored 3 points in the first half of Game 2, only scored 6 points in the first half of Game 1. And I understand, he's a pass first point guard. but he's going to have to score for this team. Other than him and Pascal Siakam, they really don't have a volume scorer.
Let's focus in on SGA, who was much more efficient in Game 2, scoring the basketball, but his passing game, Sean, really opening up too.
Well, look, I mean, you know, as Rick Carlisle said the other day, this guy can roll out of bed and get you 30 points. So you have to understand that even though they're making him work harder and harder for his buckets, he's getting them anyway. But if he is scoring and passing and getting his teammates involved, then that's trouble for Indiana. Because, as you know, this Oklahoma City offense can be very dangerous. If they're getting their bigs involved, if Lou Dort is getting wide open three-point shots because you're doubling on Shea and he's able to find Lou Dort, you know, and some other players. Wiggins has been really good. Caruso off the bench. If all those players are also involved in scoring, then that's a handful for Indiana.
You mentioned Alex Caruso, and if you're looking for an unsung hero, that man right there definitely fitting the description. What's allowed him to be so effective in this series?
Well, Nabil, well, two things. First of all, it's defensively, obviously. That's why they brought him from Chicago to be, you know, a good defensive player. If you saw him in the previous round, he even collapsed a little bit on Nikola Jokic and tried to attack that dribble. Also did the same thing with Julius Randle in that Minnesota series. But what's crazy is Alex Caruso has as many points in the NBA Finals as Tyrese Halliburton. Wow. I mean, hey, Oklahoma City will take that any day of the week. And it's because he's hitting his three-point shot. And what the strange thing is, when Alex Caruso came from Chicago this season, he had the 9th most minutes on this Oklahoma City team. And that was a little bit by surprise. You figured that, you know, he'd be, you know, first got off the bench, getting, you know, starter minutes some games. And he even said that caught him, you know, a little off guard. But in these playoffs, he's now getting the 4th most minutes. He's playing well on both ends. And look, you saw how he did in Game 2, 20 points off the bench. If he's going to give that, you know, for Oklahoma City, that's just proof of how deep this team is and how valuable Alex Caruso is.
There is no doubt about that. So many fascinating storylines as we head into Game 3. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate the time, man.
Okay, we'll see you in a bit.
You know, GA, it's so interesting with these two teams because coming into this series, we talked about how deep they are, right? And now you shift over to Indy where, again, like we always talk about, role players play better at home. What are you expecting from some of the depth guys in Indy?
Well, and that's just the case. You just talked about it with Caruso and Wiggins and how well they performed and how well that bench, in essence, performed for OKC. You would expect a similar dynamic from this Pacers group. They do play with a lot of energy. They're much more electric. They're bouncier. They play with more energy on their home floor. And so I think you're going to see that. But I think Sean made a very good point. You still, the confidence a team derives comes from their best player. And when your best players, it's not that Tyrese has to approach the game the way that SGA does, but his best version of himself has to be on display. And so he's got to be a guy that's attacking, creating opportunities, creating rhythm shots, and then sprinkling in his points along the way. Because now when your team sees, okay, our best players are engaged, he and Siakam, it gives everybody else a little more confidence to, one, stay within themselves, not trying to do too much. And I think that's where the freedom and the flow and what we've seen from this Pacers this postseason is able to show itself. And I think that's going to be really important. Conversely, when you look at OKC, SGA has not had a problem getting what he's wanted all series. Jalen Williams hasn't been quite as efficient, but he's still been aggressive. And I think that is also important. You don't have to shoot well to play well, right? You have to play the game that your team expects you to play in order for you to have success, particularly on the road.
Yeah, play within your role. Rick Carlisle has seen it all over his coaching years. He's now at the podium, so let's listen in.
Hi, Coach. Hadi Aguiar from ESPN Brazil. I know a win is a win and the series tied. But how concerned is it for you that your team has been leading this series for just 1 minute and 56 seconds?
You know, everything that's already happened doesn't matter other than the score of the series. And so we're going to move forward. There's a lot of things we have to do better. We realize that. I think we've lost, at least by the scoreboard, 6 out of 8 or 7 out of 8 quarters. And so we're playing a great team. And so we've got to make adjustments, and we got to play better.
Tim, here on the left.
Reynolds with the AP. Rick, along the lines of things that don't matter, so I apologize, but you've been in Indianapolis.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry. At least I apologized first. You've been in Indianapolis before this tenure. And like you said, when you guys won the East and 49 other states, it's just basketball. Does the energy with the game feel different this time as opposed to your first couple of times here, just because of this is a very good team right now, because of Caitlin, because of what the Fever have done? Does it just seem like it's gone to even a new degree of energy, just the love affair this city, the state has with the sport?
Perhaps. Yeah, I think you're making a valid point about the Fever and Caitlin being here, and both teams are teams that are working their way up and getting better, and so the level of interest is high. We've always had great fans here. It's always been. This is the third time I've been here. I was here as an assistant coach for 3 years with Larry in the late 90s. I was a head coach for 4 years in the early 2000s, and then went to Dallas for 13 years and then came back. And so this is my fourth year in the second stint, and this has been a different kind of endeavor because it turned into a pretty significant rebuild. But the fans have stayed with us through the rebuild. The trade for Tyrese and Buddy Hield, 3.5 years ago, was something that sparked a re-interest in the franchise, and things have gone from there. So, but this is, if you're talking about pure basketball, I say both fan bases are really exceptional that way. I think Indiana's reputation, because of Hoosiers, because of Bob Knight and Indiana University, and the history that this franchise has with the ABA teams and all that, and one prior finals appearance, it's a big deal.
Joe, up front.
A couple of Tyrese questions for you. He was limping noticeably after game 2, and I know he was out there at practice today, but is he hurt in any way? And then, assuming that he plays, which I'm sure he will, is there anything that you want to see from him that you haven't seen in games 1 and 2?
Well, at this time of year, I don't know if anybody's feeling perfect. Joe, how do you feel? You feel all right? Yeah. So he practiced, and he went through everything. I know he has some discomfort. He feels it, but each day it's getting better. I don't think you're going to hear him making a big deal out of it. This is the time of year where it just doesn't get any better than this. The atmosphere, the interest, the opportunity, coming back and being at home. I mean, there's just so much to be excited about. So, we've got a couple guys that are, slightly under the weather, but I don't think anything's going to keep these guys from playing in the game.
Jamal, next question up front.
When you evaluated Tyrese is saying in the last couple of series, a lot of pressure. Teams face guarding him, trying to take him out of the game, the Cavs and Knicks. Are there similarities when you sort of evaluate the way that the Thunder have tried to approach that? And, do you feel like he can draw from the previous 2 series, the way he sort of broke out of that for this one?
Yeah, there are similarities. The difference is Oklahoma has more people to throw at a great player, and really at both of our all-stars. They can throw different. They can throw bigger, smaller, medium guys at Tyrese and at Pascal, and so it's one of their strengths. And so we've gone through these situations many times, not only during the playoffs but during the regular season, not just this season but prior seasons. And so we're going to have to adjust and create better situations. We're going to have to be better.
All right, just getting started here on NBA TV. We got more finals media availability coming up. We're going to hear from the Pacers players ahead of Game 3, including Pascal Siakam, who's up first.